Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to a new episode of our Letter to Vox podcast.
Today, we are undertaking a truly monumental deep dive. We're tackling a work of literature that operates on so many levels at the same time.
It really does. It's not just one thing.
Not at all. I mean, it's a thrilling saga of maritime adventure, for sure, but it's also a comprehensive and, frankly, often gruesome handbook detailing 19th century whaling.
And that's before you even get to the philosophy.
Exactly. It's a complex philosophical treatise on obsession and evil, and a profound book of worldview that really changed American letters forever.
So our mission today is to cut through some of that density and extract the essential nuggets for you. We want to find the key insights, the surprising details, and the central unforgettable statements that make this text a global masterpiece.
Especially since it was almost lost to history. And to understand that, we have to start with the man who wrote it. The author himself had a journey that was, in some ways, defined by the initial brutal failure of this incredible book.
We are, of course, diving deep into the American saga penned by Herman Melville.
Herman Melville. He published this novel in 1851.
And the immediate reception was astonishingly poor.
It was abysmal. I mean, it gathered dust. This epic, terrifying, and profoundly moving tale just sat unread in bookstores and libraries for decades.
It's just shocking to think about, considering what we think of it now.
It is, and Herman Melville struggled. I mean, he really struggled financially. He simply could not earn enough from his writing to support his family.
The literary life it failed him.
It completely did. And by 1866, the financial strain and, the public indifference, it forced a massive life change. He just stopped.
He stopped writing fiction.
Completely. He transitioned into the exceedingly bureaucratic world of a customs inspector in the port of New York in Manhattan.
Imagine that shift.
Yeah.
Trading the terrifying vastness of the ocean for stacks of customs papers. It's a tragic change.
It is. But that's where the story of the book starts to turn. His work, and this novel in particular, only began to gain the recognition it deserved starting in the 1920s.
The Melville Revival.
Exactly. And since then, it has slowly but surely been recognized as one of a handful of famous works cherished globally for its greatness, its beauty, and its stunning depth of thought. It wasn't just a book ahead of its time, it was a book that needed a completely different century to even begin to understand its vision.
Okay, so let's unpack this monumental story, and we have to start with the narrator, Ishmael. His decision to go to sea is the trigger for everything.
Right, but it's motivated by so much more than just finding a job. It comes from this powerful, almost violent psychological need.
He frames it as a kind of seasonal melancholy, right? Something that just creeps up on him.
He does. He describes that feeling when it is inwardly dark, as in November, a time when he finds himself, and this is his phrase, involuntarily running after all funeral processions.
That imagery is so intense, being drawn to death and sorrow. But the detail that always gets me is that other impulse he has.
The hats.
The hats, having to restrain the urge to run out into the street and knock the hats off people's heads one after the other.
It's such a specific, aggressive, and, irrational urge. It signals a complete internal disorder. For Ishmael, the sea is the only cure. It's a way to get out into the pure air and in healthy exercise.
And there's a cynical practical layer to it, too. He talks about escaping the financial pressures of being on land.
Oh, absolutely. He sees staying on land as exposing himself to the most uncomfortable evil on earth, paying. He much prefers the simple state of being paid while at sea. He wants out of the whole system.
But the real driver seems to be intellectual, a search for adventure and knowledge.
It is. He's drawn to the wild, distant seas, the unspeakable dangers of the whale hunt, and the thousand wonders of Tierra del Fuego. He kind of rationalizes all this risk by saying it's worthwhile if man is familiar with everything there is in this world.
So a whaling voyage becomes a philosophical pursuit.
Exactly. So with this internal mandate, he heads north to New Bedford.
And he arrives to find it icy, desolate, and really expensive. He's looking for the absolute cheapest lodging he can find down by the water.
And he finds it. The Spouter Inn, run by a man named Peter Coffin.
The names alone are just
Yeah.
a huge red flag.
Huh.
A spouter, which is a whale, and a host named Coffin.
You can't make it up. And the atmosphere inside just confirms all the warning signs. The sign outside is creaking. It's got this painting of a pure white whale on it. It's not exactly welcoming.
The inside sounds like a wreck itself. A low, convoluted entrance, old paneling that looked like it was ripped from a shipwreck. It's designed to put you on edge.
And then there's the art. This massive, dark, frankly terrifying painting of a ship in a storm off Cape Horn. The whole inn feels less like a place to rest and more like a museum of maritime disaster.
The barroom is just as grim. It's filled with whaling artifacts, tools, and trophies that really emphasize the brutality of the job. But there's one detail that stands out, one that really sets the stage for Moby Dick.
There is this historical harpoon that's bent into the shape of a corkscrew. We learn it was thrown in the Indo-Chinese seas, it broke off, and then years later it was found again off Cape Blanco.
And it had traveled a full 40 feet through the whale's body.
40 feet. It tells you immediately that Ishmael is stepping into a world where man is often the secondary figure in the fight against these colossal metal-bending animals.
So with that atmosphere established, the host, Coffin, tells Ishmael he has to share a bed.
Right. With a harpooner who is no white man, who only eats steaks, preferably raw, and, most alarmingly, who sells New Zealand heads.
And this is where Ishmael's intellectual curiosity just collides with the cultural fear of the other. He is terrified.
Completely. He tries to sleep on a wooden bench first. He even considers barricading the door because he's convinced this guy is some kind of head-peddling cannibal.
And the harpooner's arrival doesn't exactly calm his fears.
Not at all. He walks in holding, quite literally, a shrunken, preserved New Zealander's head. And his face looks horrifying to Ishmael. It's described as purplish red, yellowish, and here and there large blackish squares.
Ishmael thinks they're scars from a knife fight.
He does. He thinks he's looking at wounds and patches. But then comes this magnificent moment of realization.
They aren't scars. They're tattoos.
They're tattoos, extensive, intentional tattoos. He's meeting Queequeg, a man who, we learn, has spent time among cannibals. That's why he has the head.
And this recognition, this shift from seeing wounds to seeing art, it triggers a pivotal moment for Ishmael.
It's profound. It's really a statement against the ingrained racism of the 19th century. Ishmael concludes, "It is only the exterior. The skin doesn't matter as long as the man inside is good." He decides to judge the man, not the markings.
But Queequeg immediately puts that new tolerance to the test with his nightly ritual.
He does. He performs this intensely pagan ritual with his little wooden idol, Yojo. He sets up a small fire in the fireplace and sacrifices some wood shavings and a piece of ship's biscuit.
And Ishmael, the so-called civilized Christian, doesn't criticize him. He actually joins in.
He does. He admits it. We lit the shavings. We bowed a few times and kissed its nose. The bond of just being two humans in a room together trumps any kind of religious prejudice.
And that bond, it's sealed right there. It's immediate and strong. Queequeg then tells him his story. He's a prince's son.
Right, who went to sea specifically to learn from Christian men how to make his own people happier.
But he got disillusioned pretty quickly.
Instantly. He saw that white men were also bad and unhappy, and he comes to this sad conclusion: the world is equally bad at all latitudes. I will die a pagan. He stays true to his idol, Yojo, which is a powerful statement on the hypocrisy he saw.
But their practical bond is formidable. Queequeg is an expert harpooner, and Ishmael, who's been a sailor, has never been on a whaling ship. They need each other.
They do. They agree to share everything: ship, watch, boat, and lodging, and everything good in both worlds. It's this beautiful, necessary pact between a pagan and a Christian, sealed in a cold room in New Bedford. And this relationship, this tolerance, it's really Ishmael's only saving grace later in the book.
Yeah.
So their shared destiny takes them from New Bedford to Nantucket. And the text makes it very clear that Nantucket isn't just another port. It's the spiritual, hardened epicenter of global whaling.
Melville really focuses on the island's history, showing how the people there were shaped by this really bleak environment.
It's a stark history. When Europeans first arrived, they found basically nothing but desolation. He uses this chilling image, the skeleton of the poor little redskin, to emphasize how isolated it was.
With no resources on land, they had to turn to the sea.
Relentlessly. It's a story of survival through really a ruthless economic transformation. They started small, gathering shellfish, then fishing for cod, and eventually they built this massive fleet that explored the world's oceans and waged war against the mammoth of the salty sea.
And this history creates a very specific kind of person, the Nantucket whaleman.
Exactly. The text emphasizes that Nantucket men are just, utterly distinct. They're at sea for years at a time, so the land itself smells to them like another world, like the moon to an earth dweller. They are a breed apart.
Perfectly suited for the voyage of the Pequod.
Perfectly. And to sign on to the Pequod, Ishmael and Queequeg have to meet the ship's owners. Captains Peleg and Bildad.
Peleg is the loud, boisterous one. He immediately tests Ishmael, accusing him of being a mutineer or a thief. It shows you how much they distrusted outsiders.
He's crude, yeah, but he's ultimately the more reasonable of the two. Then you have Bildad.
The pious miser. Bony, gray-coated, always reading his Bible, and determined to give Ishmael the smallest possible share of the profits.
This lay system is so important to understanding the whole enterprise. It's not a wage, it's profit sharing. Every man gets a percentage. If the voyage is a bust, you get nothing. If it's a success, you could get rich.
It incentivizes risk-taking to an extreme degree.
It does, and Bildad embodies the hypocrisy of it. He initially offers Ishmael the laughably small 777th part of the catch.
And he justifies it by saying he has a duty to the ship's co-owners, including the widows and orphans.
It's the ultimate stingy excuse, cloaked in piety. He's using the helpless to justify his own greed. Peleg, thankfully, gets exasperated and steps in, getting Ishmael the more common 300th part.
But this whole exchange really shows the tension. The whalemen take all the physical risks, while owners like Bildad are back home, just coldly calculating their profits.
Right. But the real commander of the ship, the man who will define their destiny, is still unseen. Ishmael only learns about Captain Ahab after he's already signed the papers.
And Peleg's description of him is immediately unsettling. A kingly figure who was on the university but also with the cannibals. That duality is so unnerving.
And then Peleg delivers the grim central fact. Ahab lost his leg. It was swallowed, eaten up, cracked by the most monstrous sperm whale. This is the trauma that drives everything.
Of course, Ishmael, being well-read, immediately makes the connection to the biblical king Ahab, the wicked king whose blood was licked by dogs.
Peleg tries to dismiss it, saying Ahab's mother was not entirely herself when she chose the name, but you can't unring that bell. The sense of doom is planted.
And it's immediately reinforced by this strange encounter on the docks with a man named Elijah.
The prophet archetype. A pockmarked man who confronts them, asking about the state of their souls and dropping these cryptic warnings about Ahab. He says Ahab's soul is just the fifth wheel on the carriage.
What a strange metaphor. What do you think that means?
I think it means Ahab's soul isn't driving anything. It's just a useless attachment, along for a ride it can't control. It suggests he's operating on some primal, obsessive level, completely disconnected from any moral or spiritual guidance.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoy this podcast.
Elijah hints at these dark secrets, about what happened to the last crew, about the whale, making sure that Ishmael and Queequeg leave port with this unshakable sense of dread.
And the anticipation just builds. The ship is fully provisioned, the crew is all there, but Ahab stays hidden in his cabin, a ghostly commander.
So they finally set sail without even meeting him. The mystery of his torment is now the dominant mood of the entire voyage. So as the Pequod finally gets underway, the novel takes this really interesting detour. To understand the obsessive hunt, you first have to understand the hunted and the whole industry built around it.
Right, and Melville dedicates a lot of time to this. It's technical, it's detailed, but it's often really humorous too, especially when he starts classifying the whales.
It's almost a moment of literary rebellion. He gives this defiant definition of a whale, arguing against the science of his day, which by 1851 had already classified them as mammals.
He just rejects it. He says a whale is a blowing fish with a horizontal tail.
And his proof is the prophet Jonah. He basically says, if the Bible says Jonah was swallowed by a great fish, then it's a fish. He wants the whaler's definition, not the scientists'.
It's wonderfully stubborn, and it allows him to create his own taxonomy, these 3 books of whales.
Exactly. Book 1 is for the great whales. You have the Greenland whale, which used to be the king of the seas, mostly valued for its baleen.
Which we call whalebone.
Right. But the true king now, the center of the whole industry, is the sperm whale.
Because of the oil.
Because of the oil. Spermaceti. The sperm whale's supremacy is purely economic. Its oil is just that much better.
Book I also includes the fin whale and the humpback. I always like the description of the humpback, calling it the most cheerful whale, one that loves to play. A nice moment of levity.
It is. Then in book 2, the middle whales, you get the pilot whale, known for its loud snorting, and the black whale. He nicknames that one the hyena whale.
Because of its gluttony. And he says the corners of its mouth are pulled up in a devilish grin.
And book 3 has the small whales, like the porpoise. They're seen as good luck, and they also provided this very fine, valuable fluid from their jaws that was used by watchmakers and goldsmiths.
But let's get back to the sperm whale, because its head is really the whole point of the voyage.
The head is everything. It's described as having a beautiful symmetry, a character head, with this massive lower jaw of ivory teeth, sometimes 42 of them, used for things like canes,
But the real treasure isn't the teeth, it's in the upper part of the head, the pot.
which Melville compares to the famous, enormous Heidelberg-ton wine barrel. It's basically a giant vat inside the whale's head, and it's filled with spermaceti.
So what is this stuff exactly?
It's unique. It's described as a clear, pure, fragrant oil. It's liquid inside the living whale, but when it's exposed to the air, it crystallizes into these beautiful flakes. It was the ultimate lubricant and the best source for clean-burning candles.
And a single large whale could have how much?
Over 500 gallons, more than 2,000 liters. The sheer quantity made all the risk worthwhile.
And harvesting it was incredibly dangerous. We see that in the horrific accident that almost killed Tashtego, the harpooner.
The pot is this deep, oily well. To get the spermaceti out, a man has to be perched high above it, using a ladle. During this process, Tashtego slips and falls headfirst right into it. He just disappears into the gurgling oil.
It's terrifying. He's not eaten by the whale, he's swallowed by its economic output.
Exactly. They shout, "Man overboard!"
Mm-hmm.
But it's Queequeg who reacts with this incredible presence of mind.
Using his coffin.
Using his coffin, the canoe he had built when he was sick, he uses it to secure himself, plunges into the oil, and actually manages to rescue Tashtego. It's a moment of pagan ingenuity saving a man who was literally consumed by the industry.
And the aftermath of this is hugely symbolic. The Pequod had recently lost his life buoy in a storm.
Right. So Queequeg's repaired coffin, which is covered in the markings of his tattoos, the secrets of his life, is repurposed as the ship's new life buoy.
Think about that for a second. The object that was built for a pagan burial containing all these non-Christian secrets is now the only literal means of salvation for the mostly Christian crew.
It confirms everything Ishmael realized in that room at the inn. Salvation comes from the most unexpected, non-traditional places.
Beyond the harvest, the danger of the hunt is really all encapsulated in the whaling line.
Oh, absolutely. This line, made of manila fiber, is immense, 400 meters long. It's coiled in a bucket like a large ball of living snakes. The second that harpoon hits, that line becomes a living projectile.
And the danger is absolute. If it snags an arm or a leg, you're gone, pulled into the ocean instantly.
The text describes the feeling as sitting in the whirring of a steam engine. It's pure, uncontrolled power. There's no time for a decision. There's only immediate, violent consequence. It's the point of contact between man's tools and nature's brute force.
So we move now from
Yes.
facts of the industry to the driving, terrifying engine of the ship itself. After weeks at sea, Ahab finally comes out of his cabin and steps onto the quarterdeck.
And his appearance is just as striking as we were led to believe. A tall, broad figure, looking like he was cast in bronze, but the most memorable feature is that scar.
The livid blue-white scar that runs from his gray hair down his face and disappears under his clothes.
It's described like the mark left on an oak tree struck by lightning, a permanent brand of some immense external violence that has scarred him but not killed him. He looks tormented, sleepless.
And his emergence is immediately followed by the sudden appearance of Fedallah, his personal harpooner, and Fedallah's crew.
Who had been secretly stowed away in the hold. This immediately signals that this is not a normal whaling voyage. This is something else, fueled by Ahab's private, maybe even demonic pacts.
And Ahab wastes no time. He nails a large Spanish doubloon worth $16 to the mainmast.
And it's more than just a prize. It's a focus point for a collective madness. It's for the first man to sight Moby Dick.
And he gives a very specific description of his enemy.
He has to. He needs to make sure the crew understands this is no ordinary whale. Moby Dick has a snow-white, wrinkled brow, a hump like a blunt pyramid, a twisted mouth, and 3 holes in his right tail fin.
And his spout is different. A bushy white spout, thicker than a normal sperm whale's.
Right. But the most important detail, the one that defines his legend, is that he already has many harpoons embedded in him, all twisted and bent. He's a survivor of countless battles. He seems unkillable.
Once the whale is identified, Ahab lays out his singular, vengeful purpose.
He does. Moby Dick took his leg, crippled him forever, and he swears to hunt him with this insane planetary obsession. Around the Cape of Good Hope, around Cape Horn, and up to Norway, and into the Maelstrom, and all around hell.
And this is where the novel shifts from an adventure story to a philosophical treatise. Ahab says Moby Dick isn't just an animal, he calls him a mask.
Right. A mask for an unexplained malice and violent power. This is the core of Ahab's madness. He doesn't just hate the whale, he hates the random, cruel indifference of the universe that allowed this to happen to him.
Moby Dick is just the physical thing he can attack.
Exactly. He's the vessel for that malice, and Ahab's goal is to strike through the mask, to confront whatever dark, indifferent power lies behind reality, whether it's fate, or God, or just chaos.
He's not just seeking revenge. He's seeking a duel with injustice itself. And his first mate, Starbuck, sees this immediately for what it is.
Starbuck is the voice of sanity. He's described as honest, but ultimately powerless against Ahab, and he calls it out, vengeance on a dumb brute. That is blasphemy.
He argues that it's just a meaningless, destructive quest.
But Ahab is completely immune to reason. He sees Starbuck's morality as weakness. He elevates himself, declaring, if I am insulted by the sun, I strike at it. Who would dare be above me? It's pure hubris. He thinks he's above all natural and moral law.
And then he manipulates the crew, uniting them through their greed and a kind of manufactured hatred.
And the whole thing culminates in this dark, quasi-religious ritual. Ahab uses his harpoon to serve grog to his mates,
Who then use the hollow end of that same harpoon to serve the pagan harpooneers Tashtego, Queequeg, and Dagu.
It's a dark communion. They are all drinking from the instrument of death, binding the entire crew, Christian and pagan, white and non-white, to Ahab's blasphemous quest. Their fates are now fused to his.
As the voyage continues and they get closer to Moby Dick's hunting grounds, Ahab's obsession just escalates. He starts rejecting any kind of external authority or guidance.
Yeah, his scorn for conventional tools becomes very dramatic. He takes his quadrant, his sextant, and in a fit of rage, he just throws it overboard.
Which is a radical move. He's literally throwing away the tools of science and reason.
He is. He's replacing reliable calculation with its own sheer, willful instinct. He is declaring himself the supreme and only authority on the ship.
And his perceived control over nature gets tested during a big storm. The ship's compass needles are reversed by lightning.
St. Elmo's fire, and the crew is terrified. They see this as a terrible omen, a sign from God or the universe that they're on the wrong path.
But Ahab seizes the moment. He uses a fine needle and magnetic force to fix the compasses, and then he scorns the men for their fear.
He reestablishes himself as the only one who can guide them, making himself seem almost supernatural, like he can command the very elements that frighten them.
And this growing madness pushes Starbuck into this agonizing internal struggle. He finds Ahab's musket.
And he considers assassination. It's a profound moral dilemma. He thinks Ahab should beware of Ahab. Beware of yourself, old man. He sees that Ahab is the greatest danger to everyone on board, including himself.
So is murder justified if it saves dozens of lives?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he do it?
I think it's the sheer weight of authority and tradition. Starbuck is a good, honest man, and he's bound by his loyalty and obedience to his captain. He just can't bring himself to do it, no matter how necessary it seems.
His morality prevents him from committing the necessary evil.
Which ensures the final tragedy. And after that, he has to witness the next step in Ahab's dark pact. Ahab commissions the blacksmith, Perth, to forge a new, unbreakable harpoon head.
Right, from the toughest material he can think of. The nails from racehorse shoes.
Symbols of speed and power on land, and Ahab personally works the bellows and hammers the metal, pouring his own obsessive will into the weapon.
But the hardening process, that's the truly shocking part. He rejects using water to quench the steel.
He does. He demands that the three harpooneers, Tashtego, Queequeg, and Dagu, cut themselves so that the harpoon's barbs can be hardened in their pagan blood.
It's a demonic baptism. The steel hissed as it drank their blood. The weapon and the quest are now, quite literally, sealed in blood.
In the middle of all this, the Pequod keeps encountering other ships, and they all serve as these cautionary tales that Ahab just violently rejects.
First, the Jeroboam, a ship basically controlled by a madman named Gabriel, who claims he's an archangel and warns Ahab to stop.
A warning from chaos itself. Ahab ignores it.
And then, in a truly heartbreaking scene, they meet the Rachel. Her captain, Gardner, is frantically searching for his 12-year-old son who was lost in a boat while chasing Moby Dick.
Gardner begs Ahab for help, just for 48 hours to help search.
And Ahab's response is his ultimate moral failure. He prioritizes his abstract vendetta over the life of a child. He just coldly dismisses him. I've lost too much time already. I must go on.
The irony is just staggering. Ahab had recently taken the lost cabin boy, Pip, under his wing, showing this flicker of paternal feeling. Yet he refuses to help a real father find his lost son. The quest has just obliterated his compassion.
And this happens not long after Queequeg becomes seriously ill and has his coffin made.
Right. He accepts his fate, prepares according to his beliefs, and then miraculously recovers. And as we mentioned, that very coffin, containing the history of his life, becomes the ship's life buoy.
It's the ultimate juxtaposition. Ahab's obsession is leading everyone to certain death, while Queequeg's pagan acceptance of fate creates the only object that offers any chance of survival.
As they finally draw closer to the fateful encounter, the chilling set of prophecies from Fedallah, Ahab's pilot, really casts a long shadow over everything.
A very complex, multi-layered death prophecy.
It is. First, Ahab can only die after seeing two hearses on the ocean. The first hearse will not be made by mortal hands and will already be on the ship.
And the second hearse will be made of American wood.
Right. And then Fedallah promises to go before Ahab as his pilot, and that he will reappear after death to show Ahab the way.
And finally, the most ironic part. Ahab can only die by hemp.
Which Ahab just laughs at. He interprets it literally, thinking it means he has to be hanged on land. So he believes he's immortal at sea.
And that belief fuels his final, reckless charge. A fatal misinterpretation.
The final chase spans 3 devastating days. On day 1, Ahab is the one who finally sights Moby Dick, claiming the doubloon. The whale is right there, dragging old harpoon lines.
The boats are launched, but Moby Dick turns on them and destroys Ahab's boat.
And in the chaos, Fedallah is lost, dragged under by a line. Ahab manages to retrieve his special harpoon, and he knows with this grim certainty that he has to see Fedallah again, which confirms the first part of the prophecy.
On day 2, they sight the whale again. Ahab is a bit preoccupied, building a temporary leg from the splinters of his destroyed boat, but the pursuit continues.
And here, Ahab shows one last flicker of humanity. He sheds a single teardrop into the ocean.
Just one.
One single drop. It's a tiny moment of regret for his long, lonely life, for the family he left behind. A brief moment of self-awareness before the madness takes over again completely.
And then comes day 3, the climax. The whale is sighted again, and Ahab orders the Pequod to sail directly into the wind, ignoring all caution.
Starbuck is in tears at this point, begging Ahab one last time to turn back, to save the crew, but Ahab rejects him absolutely.
And as they approach, Moby Dick surfaces, and then the first hearse appears.
Chillingly fulfilled, Fedallah's corpse is seen lashed to the whale's back by the harpoon lines, his black clothes torn.
The hearse not made by mortal hands, carried by the whale itself. Fedallah has returned as Ahab's pilot to death.
The final move follows swiftly. Moby Dick rams the Pequod below the waterline. The ship shudders and water rushes in like a river in a gorge, and Ahab cries out, recognizing the second part of his doom.
The ship. The ship is thus the second hearse that I should see before I die. This wood grew nowhere else than in America.
And in his final desperate act, Ahab throws his harpoon one last time. As he prepares to strike again, the manila fiber line, the very hemp of the prophecy, snags him by the neck.
And he's pulled silently from the boat, dragged to his death by the very weapon he forged in blood. His vengeance becomes the instrument of his own ironic end.
The Pequod sinks rapidly, but in a final act of fierce defiance, Tashtego nails the ship's flag to the mast.
And a white bird gets caught in a cloth and is dragged down with the ship, a symbol of innocence, or maybe Ahab's defiance itself, being pulled into the abyss.
And as the ship disappears, leaving only this sucking vortex, one single object bobs free.
The life buoy. Queequeg's repurposed coffin, floating alone amidst the wreckage, a promise of survival saved by the very structure built to honor a pagan death.
So when we look back at this whole saga, there are a few clear, powerful takeaways. First, the book is just a masterclass in tension, balancing this thrilling adventure story with a really dark philosophical quest.
And you see the clear transformation of Ishmael, our narrator, who rejects cultural prejudice through his relationship with Queequeg. He learns that fundamental lesson. The skin doesn't matter as long as the man inside is good.
We also get this unparalleled look at the sheer industry and danger of 19th century whaling. You understand the lay system, the immense value of spermaceti, the constant mechanical threat of the whaling line.
These technical details aren't just filler. They are the brutal context for the human drama that unfolds.
But ultimately, the core of the book is Ahab's destructive obsession. He's hunting a foe that represents an abstract, inexplicable malice. His hubris was in trying to impose his singular human will on these vast, incomprehensible cosmic forces.
And his failure proves that trying to strike through the mask of reality with hatred is, in the end, just the ultimate form of self-destruction.
So, as you reflect on this magnificent and terrifying story, here's a provocative thought to leave you with. How often in our own lives do we pursue goals that, a bit like Moby Dick, serve only as a vessel for our own personal unexplained malice?
We have to ask ourselves if we are sometimes more afraid of the unexplained forces in life than the actual physical danger in front of us. And what price do we pay when we allow hatred and vengeance to steer our own ship toward inevitable ruin?